Okay, good afternoon again. This is my summation of my paper, and it's already been graded. It was about the grade I expected. This is my first time using the Chicago style citation method, and I had a really hard time with that. My paper is over Martin Van Buren, the 8th President of the United States, and although he was not known as a great president, because nothing huge happened during his presidency, which makes them great, he did a lot. He was a huge follower of Andrew Jackson, like worship follow. He did have Muttonchops. He had 6 children. 2 of them passed away right after birth. His wife died of tuberculosis, and while she had tuberculosis, she gave birth to a child. 2 of his sons worked in his cabinet. With his wife dying, one of his elder sons was Abraham. I believe his name was Abraham. His wife took over the duties of being the First Lady, and she was appointed by Martin Van Buren to be the First Lady. I know that somebody commented that this is not an appointed office, and that is correct, it is not. But in this case, Angelica Van Buren was appointed by President Martin Van Buren to be the First Lady, and she carried out the duties of First Lady, such as taking care of the household, throwing the parties, being the overall First Lady and doing what they did. Like I said, he wasn't great. He was a little man. He had lots of, he's responsible, he is responsible for the two-party system that we now have with the Democrats and the Republicans. And during his time, there were the Whigs, and he was responsible for the two-party system that we now know as the Republican and Democratic parties. He had a little bit to do with Mexico. He kind of stopped the expansion to keep from having a war with Mexico. There was with the Jackson economics plan that they had, and Van Buren was not willing to change. He suffered the same, just continued on, except the banking systems failed, and both Jackson and Van Buren were big proponents of state banks instead of federal banks. This was to keep the money separate from the government, I think, was their whole idea. But when the banks started to fail, so did a lot of other things, corporations, small businesses, and things like that. And a so-called depression entered into in 1837, which was not wholly the whole fault of Van Buren, but since he continued the Jackson economic system, I guess he has to take blame for it. He did kind of manipulate his way into different offices. He retired back into... he was the first United States president born. He was the first president born in the United States. He was not the first president born in America, but he was the first president born in the United States. So, once again, someone made a comment about that. He was the first president born in the United States. He's the first president whose first language was not English. even though he was born in the United States, his family and his parents and the community he lived in was a Dutch community, and that's the language they spoke. They didn't speak English, so Dutch was his first. He had to learn English as his second language. And I know other presidents spoke more than one language, but he was the first president born in the United States to not have English as his first language. So his father ran a tavern. He went to school until he was about 12, 13, and then his father convinced a lawyer to take him under his wing, and that's how he became a lawyer. And that's how he got into politics. He would listen to people in his father's tavern talk, and that's when he piqued his interest into economic or into politics. And they think that OK, the symbol OK, came from where he grew up and where he later retired and passed away and is now buried there. It's called OL apostrophe Kinderhook. And instead of just saying "Oh Kinderhook," they would just say "Okay," and they knew where he was talking about. I mean, they think that's maybe where "Okay" came from, but that's kind of what they think. He was a good president. He wasn't a bad president. He made some not great decisions, but then again, we have presidents that do that for every term. And so the name of my paper is called Martin Van Buren, More Than Just the Muttonchops. And once again, muttonchops are facial hair, big, huge sideburns for men. Not quite a beard, but really huge. And I chose the Muttonchops because that's what he was known for, but also because Dr. Butler is such a fan of where hair came from. That's all I had to say. Good luck to everybody, and thank you for listening. Goodbye.